All right, so we're live. So welcome everybody. So recently, a few people have been asking about mindset videos. So figured this would be a good time as any to talk about that. We've been covering kind of the same subject for a few weeks, so let's go ahead and switch to something different, right? Um, so with mindset, basically, we're going to kind of cover why we compete. Um, and like kind of like the your approach to competition, right? Because I think a lot of times people really um, get get a lot of performance anxiety, and it really wrecks their chances of winning. So that can ultimately lead to them not competing very much or for very long in the sport. So whether it's catch wrestling or jiu-jitsu or any other type of sport, right? So let's go ahead and talk about that too, because the main thing is that you want the longevity in the sport and you want to succeed, right? So mindset is a huge deal, right? Because if you're not in it mentally, then you'll have a high chance of losing, or you got to have really high chance or really high level techniques to win when you're not feeling it, right? So kind of wanted to tell a story. This took place, like way over 10 years ago. This was like the early 2000s. I was going to compete in the second national Sanda championships, the national kickboxing championship. And so I had to go to the doctor to get the physical so I can get cleared to compete. And um, this wasn't like my regular doctor. And he asked me like why I was going in to get a checkup, um, and I told him what I was going to be doing. I was going to be doing a kickboxing match, and he's um, well, why would you want to do that? Like, kind of like aggressive or kind of disgusted. And my response, the only thing I could think of was it's like, I think it's fun. It's fun for me. And then the doctor replied, like, that's the only answer I'll accept. Right. So because yeah, you can put a getting hit is can do a lot of damage over time. So you have to have kind of like that reason why, and but the main thing. So like my reason for doing the kickboxing was because it's fun for me. I feel like it was kind of like a chess match, and so just like catch wrestling, you want to see how you can counter the person. And but the only thing to say, like with combat sports, it's like you can get pain, right, in response, right? So you can actually get a physical uh, like shock to you, right? Where like it's not like playing real chess where it's like you move and then maybe someone can kill your pawn or kill your rook or whatever. If you make a wrong move in combat sports, yeah, you might get punched in the face or kicked, or you'll have to find yourself fighting out of some kind of submission hold, right? So, or almost getting pinned, right? So that's kind of the difference. But yeah, you get this feedback based off of your movements, right? So the main thing is that you don't put so much pressure on yourself, right? That's kind of one of the major aspects that like creates failure, right? So that's kind of the whole reason why like I'm talking about this is that yeah, you got to try to find your why you're doing this, why it's fun for you. So hopefully even just like saying like I really just have fun doing the sport. I have fun figuring out the counters, right? The counter to the counter, right? Or learning more about myself and what I'm able to do. And so that could be your why. The main like often with sports, a lot of times uh, people are looking at it as like a like say like if they put their children into some sport where they think that maybe they can go pro in the future, a lot of times that's not necessarily the best way to look at sports, right? Because that can, if you're just thinking like, oh man, I'm just gonna go pro and all my financial problems are gonna be solved and this and that, it's not necessarily going to be not necessarily going to happen for you because you're not necessarily doing it uh, like for the right reasons in a way. I mean, yeah, it'd be great to have all these different problems solved, but if you might get burnt out if you're putting the type of pressure on yourself to say like, oh, I gotta go pro, I gotta do whatever it takes to do that. If it's not enjoyable for yourself, right? So if it's not enjoyable, a lot of times, um, you're not going to be putting in the hours that it takes, right, to compete at the higher levels, right? So you really got to be finding that reason for yourself that will allow you to show up to the gym day after day. Also show up to strength and conditioning, right? Doing your cardio, doing your weightlifting, right? You gotta make that reason and try to remember it, right? Like I stated earlier, for me, I think this is really fun. I really have always enjoyed combat sports. So catch wrestling in particular is a real puzzle, right? And I enjoy this type of puzzle a little bit more than even like say jujitsu or other types of combat sports. So that's why I really do this one in particular. That's what keeps me going round after round in training and also training others to have them compete um, at at the higher levels, right? So that's why it's fun for me, and that's kind of my why, right? So I wanted to share that with you as well, and so hopefully you can kind of find your why, and then also, with that being said, um, like if you can find a reason to uh, relieve some of the pressure off yourself, right? So, what I mean by that is that like if you can find a way to just enjoy yourself and be in the moment, and then um, you won't, or at least you can find that way to relieve that performance anxiety so that you can actually perform better. I'll go ahead and give you an example of one of my students, uh, Chris Morales. Uh, he was really young when he was still in high school when he started training with me, and he's really really talented, and um, but so finally gave him his first match and he lost, right? But it's not lazy from my point of view. It's um, not because he wasn't better than his opponent. It was because mentally he wasn't as confident, right? So again, he lost just because of the mentality, right? So now he's much different, right? So this is years later, and he'd definitely be much tougher to beat. I mean, he already is tougher to beat. I mean, you've seen his other videos where he's beating other people. We've put some of his highlights on our Instagram, and also we've done breakdowns of his wins and stuff too on our YouTube channel. So go and check all those out. Make sure you're watching all those, and you'll see that when he's actually in it mentally, he can win, right? So that's the thing. So it takes like it takes the time talking, because I mean, yeah, you can enjoy training, you can enjoy the sport, but uh, once you find that why, then you have to allow it to kind of take over the rest of your mindset, so that you're able to go out and compete and not just be anxiety ridden, or don't don't let your confidence go away completely, right? So let me give you another example, right? So someone that I've met, and he's super famous. His name's Dan Gable. He's the reason why in jiu-jitsu people call it the Gable grip, right? So the way he clasps his hands together is known as the Gable grip. So um, he lost one match in college, right? And what he said, and it seems pretty true. It's like so they had a press conference before the match, and his opponent just basically was kind of doing some of the same stuff that you might see nowadays in MMA and stuff, where they'll say like, "Oh, I'm totally gonna beat this guy," and basically started trying to get into Dan's head, and Dan had never experienced that before, right? And so the way Dan puts it is that yeah, he that was kind of shocking to him, and he totally let the guy get into his head, and he wasn't thinking about himself, his training, his skill, his confidence. He started thinking about the other guy, like, oh, does this guy actually have something to beat me with, or he has some special technique or special training, and yeah, Larry Onings beat him. Right. So, um, but even with that loss, I mean, Dan Gable will state that it was actually a major learning experience. He was able to like gain like so much more skill and understanding of the sport because of that loss. Because he had gone 7 years basically undefeated, and then that one loss, it just gave him so much more understanding that he was able to. Well, the way he describes it is that like he was then able to get an additional 7 years of improvement in 1 year after that loss. So again, sometimes you'll hear where it's like there's only learning, right? So um, that's why you want to be going out there competing to the best of your ability, the best of your confidence, right? And even if you lose, you don't want to lose because you lacked confidence. You don't want to lose because you were thinking like, oh, that person's so intimidating, and they'll totally beat me, so I'm not even gonna try. If you're gonna lose, I mean, you should at least try to give it your all, right? So that's why you want to try to go in there just having fun, also trying to be as relaxed as possible, right? And you go in there and give it your best because you might win. Because especially if you're training well, if you're training a lot, and you have really good training partners, the tournament or the matches, the goal is that like your training should be so hard that your matches are much more easy than your training. So if you're in the gym just getting beat up all the time, really getting all your skills tested, then the match um, should be much easier, right? And so don't let your mind get ahead or block all that, all your skills from coming out, from shining, right? So don't let it block you from putting on a good show. So that's kind of one of the main things that I want to impart. We'll go ahead and give a few little announcements. So yeah, we are shifting over to a new platform. So you can already check like shifting over our website to a new platform. You can see that already. Like our website looks different. It's all connected with our uh, Catch Wrestling Alliance Academy. So um, you can find it all at one place now, which that was one of my goals. I think all the courses are there already. I'll go ahead and double check to make sure that everything is there as well. I'm quite positive all the courses are over, but yeah, well, if they're not, just let me know. I'll definitely get that back up there, and we'll be transferring all the students and stuff over momentarily. Also, if there is a subject you'd like to hear about, also let me know in the comments. Um, this one was requested a few weeks ago, so that's why I wanted to finally get around to that, right? So, um, so if there's any other questions about something that we can cover in the live chats and stuff, just let me know. We'll also be covering a lot more breakdowns for some of the, because like they're doing grappling matches like almost every weekend now. So we'll have some more stuff to analyze and break down for you, and we should be organizing more events really soon, so you can actually see authentic catch wrestling in action. Apparently, there's like I don't know if you can hear it, but there's like a baby screaming outside. It's not mine. It's a I don't know. I don't know. It's like maybe they're walking outside, but yeah, it's I can hear it. Hopefully, you can't hear it too loud. All right, um, so those are kind of like the main announcements, and we'll just continue like bringing you more stuff, and so let us know what other kind of subjects you'd like us to talk about. All right. So also let me know if you have any questions right now. That those of you who are watching, feel free to ask any questions. I'll probably be on here a couple more minutes, but the main thing is that like try to if you're going to be competing, don't put on so much pressure. Like don't put too much pressure on yourself. So just try to remember the reason why you're there, and then it should be something along the lines of this is fun for you, right? It's fun for you. You've trained really hard, and also that's the thing. It's like so one of the reasons why you should be confident is if you've trained hard enough, that should be like your confidence builder. If you train hard enough, and like especially a lot of the wrestling fundamentals, right? That should be your good foundation, right? And that should be able to get you through the matches or help you to win or help you to have like a better um, winning ratio as well. So that's what you want to think of. So don't go out there and like allow your mind to let the other person win. So I gave the example of Dan Gable. The other Larry Owings got into his head. That was the match he lost. Ultimately, it was a good thing, right? It helped him to improve so that eventually, when he went on to the Olympics, he won and no one scored a point on him, right? So uh, that so don't let your mind make you lose. You want to go out there and put on a great show for everybody and yourself, right? So if you look at the video later, hopefully you're the one putting together that highlight reel, right? Okay. So, does anybody have any questions? Go and you can throw one up there or not. Okay. So, with the mindset thing, I think we kind of talked about that. I'll go ahead and someone was asking earlier this week about my background. I think we might as well talk about that. So, those of you who don't know me very well, um, then just know basically like um, I have like the highest level certification. So basically, like the black belt in the American style wrestling or American style catch wrestling. So from John Strickland, who is the lineage holder of like it's called American hook wrestling. He is the kind of the successor of actual catch wrestler Billy Wicks or William Wicks. People call him Pops. I spoke with Pops um, over the phone before he died. Um, but John Strickland is now the successor of William Wicks. If so that lineage goes back through to Farmer Burns, right? And then ultimately that goes back directly to Lancashire, England, right? So um, that's my lineage. Also, I've trained in Wigan, so basically I've been going back and forth from Wigan and learning also, say, even directly from Billy Robinson in Arkansas, where it's like unfiltered, like going before he passed away, where it's like you don't have to, he doesn't have to kind of stick to a set curriculum like in a seminar. He actually can kind of go off and we can learn like more in detail. So that's the benefit of private training. Unfortunately, he also passed away, but Roy Wood is the actual successor to their coach, their legendary coach, Billy Riley, who trained also uh, even other famous wrestlers uh, who you might not have heard of because there's not like a hype train behind all of them, right? So one of the ones that they feel was the best wrestler there was this man named Billy Joyce. He basically always beat Billy Robinson. They had so Billy Joyce dominated in pro wrestling in England, and so one day the promoters basically said, "Look, you dominate, and it's almost like kind of boring for the audience. So, would it be possible for you to let Billy Robinson beat you?" And they agreed. Right, so it was a pro wrestling match. Right, Joyce allowed Robinson to beat him for the belt, but the next day they were back in Riley's gym, right, and Joyce really, like just laid it on Robinson, just so he remembered that he wasn't as good as Joyce, right? So yeah, that's my other lineage. So really, kind of similar to one of my good friends, the late Ian Bromley. Ian trained a lot with Roy Wood in Wigan, and he also would come to the United States to train with Billy Wicks before Billy passed away. Unfortunately, Ian also passed away recently. Um, so someone was asking me kind of about that background. So I wanted to let you know. I'm literally in the Wigan history book, or I mentioned in there. So that book was produced by Wigan. It's called um, basically it's about Billy Riley. So it's like Billy Riley, the man, the legend. They go through his history. They also go through the history of a lot of the more famous wrestlers that came out of there, which would be good for you guys to learn because there's definitely more than just Billy Robinson that came out of there. And there's definitely more than what Carl Istas, right? Carl calls himself Carl Gotch, or called himself Carl Gotch, because of Frank Gotch. He tried to say it was just a fluke that he took that name, but no, it's like he wanted to associate himself um, with Frank, but they're no relation. They are not related whatsoever, and so um, there's more people than that. More people than the what the uh, like the media hype train is promoting. And it's great that they helped out, and Japan was really grateful to them to help out the pro wrestling there. Um, but yeah, like that. So I want to kind of let you know that there's more people than just those two that came out of Wigan, and a lot of higher level people. So yeah, just want to let you know that. So someone was asking about my background. I'm literally in the Wigan history book, and I've put in the time for the American lineage as well. All right, so uh, just for your information. Okay, so maybe we'll go ahead and end it there for this week. Let me know um, what else you guys would like to talk about. Okay, all right. Thanks for watching.